I'd like to share something that came to mind during my bike ride to work the other day. This week, the city has been reconstructing the curbs on Lorne Street between Victoria and Walnut. Normally, I avoid this section of Lorne because traffic is too fast, but this week, the street was reduced to one lane in each direction, so people were driving at a more reasonable pace. This temporary road diet cut the street's capacity in half. On most major roads, this kind of capacity reduction would mean a major backup of traffic. But despite Lorne being classified as a primary arterial, cutting its capacity in half had no discernible impact on traffic flow. To be fair, this video was shot on a Friday morning, and most of Sudbury takes Fridays off in the summer, so traffic wasn't as heavy as it might have been on another day. But if we look at the community profile for the West End, we see that the annual average daily traffic count for this part of Lorne Street is only 13,000 vehicles a day. That's less than half the number of vehicles that use the same number of lanes on Notre Dame going through the flour mill. So you can see from this temporary road diet and based on the numbers that this section of Lorne Street has a lot of excess capacity. That capacity could easily be repurposed for pedestrians and cyclists. The east side of the street doesn't have a sidewalk, despite having 2 bus stops and close to half a kilometer between controlled crossings. And people tend to ride their bikes on the sidewalk on the west side of the street, competing for space with pedestrians going to and from the grocery store nearby. This would be one of the easiest streets in Sudbury to convert into a complete street, and all it would require is repainting some lines and installing removable flexible bollards like the ones I saw here in Quebec City. To make this happen, we would need a champion on City Council to introduce a motion directing staff to make it happen. So contact Ward 1 Councillor Mark Signoretti and Ward 10 Councillor Fern Cormier and tell them you want to see safe, dedicated cycling infrastructure on Lorne Street. We can keep the car lanes 3.5 meters wide for the big trucks, add turning lanes at each intersection to maintain traffic flow, and still have room to install bike lanes in each direction and convert the boulevard on the east side into a sidewalk. It would cost less than $1 million to do this between Douglas and Elm, and we could do it in time for next summer because it wouldn't require the replacement of any curbs. In the winters, the bike lanes could be used for snow storage. This would go a long way to making Lorne Street a more pedestrian and cyclist-friendly street in anticipation of the redevelopment of the Brewers Lofts, and it will help make biking downtown an easier choice for people who live in the West End, which is one of the most affordable neighborhoods in the central part of the city. When this section of Lorne finally gets completely reconstructed, we can rebuild the bike lanes with proper curb separation just like they're going to do on 2nd Avenue. It would help discourage speeding, encourage cycling, and give pedestrians a safe place to walk on the east side of the street. The only thing drivers would have to give up is a lane they don't use anyway. These are just a few thoughts that crossed my mind on the way to work on Friday. If this makes sense to you, please call and email the neighborhood councilors, Mark Signoretti and Fern Cormier, and tell them Lorne needs to go on a diet. Until then, be excellent to each other.